Hi, I'm Donald McIntyre, founder of Etherplan. I research, write articles, and podcasts about Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin, and decentralized applications. This series is Getting Started with Ethereum Classic. Section Comparisons with Ethereum and Bitcoin. I am going to read the article Ethereum is a sports car, Ethereum Classic is an armored vehicle. This is episode 20 of 50. Ethereum is a sports car, Ethereum Classic is an armored vehicle. This is an interview of Donald McIntyre by Omar Faridi, originally published on Crypto Globe. 1. Why is Ethereum Classic a better alternative to building dApps compared to Ethereum? A useful analogy is to see Ethereum as a sports car and Ethereum Classic as an armored vehicle. The problem is to think that ETH can be an armored vehicle and ETC can be a sports car. Ethereum is about scaling and performance, and Ethereum Classic is about high value and security. For this, Ethereum and ETC have different functions in the blockchain industry. ETC will be a highly secure base chain perfectly suitable for decentralized computing and high-value smart contracts between people and businesses, while Ethereum is aiming to be a high-speed, high-volume transaction layer to satisfy performance applications. In that context, ETC could even provide security services to high-performance networks as ETH. I think it would be a big advantage for both ecosystems, ETH and ETC, to analyze that possibility, as it would likely minimize, in the context of standard wars, which means that only a few networks will survive in the future, the threat of alternative ETH-compatible chains such as EOS, Tezos, Cardano, and others. 2. What are some of the unique features of Ethereum Classic? When Ethereum finally moved to Ethereum 2.0, which is a proof-of-stake based system with database fragmentation in the form of sharding and variable monetary policy, ETC will be the only non-fragmented fixed monetary policy, proof-of-work, and Turing-complete blockchain. This is an extremely valuable niche in the industry that will be increasingly appreciated in the next few years as Layer 1 versus Layer 2 as the Layer 1 versus Layer 2 and security versus performance segmentations become more evident for market participants. 3. What are the main challenges Ethereum Classic faces as a platform? On the technical side, ETC as a platform is not facing major challenges, as I see the ECIP, Ethereum Classic Improvement Proposal process upgrades pipeline is advancing smoothly. For example, the Atlantis hard fork on block 8,750,000, which integrates Ethereum's Spurious Dragon and Byzantium upgrades, will likely be deployed and activated by mid-September, and the Agartha hard fork on block 9,200,000, which integrates Ethereum's Constantinople and St. Petersburg upgrades, is under technical analysis, but has minor observations that are being ironed out. On the market side, I do observe ETC, for historical reasons, has a lower profile and less top-of-mind awareness, so communications about its true state and advancement is always more difficult and costly to convey. The fact that Ethereum and EOS and the others have billions of dollars to spend in this is of course a factor as well. However, there are several volunteers, professionals, and entities in the ecosystem working on more and more effective communications, such as ETC Cooperative, IOHK, ETC Labs, Christian Severino, Kevin Lord, myself, and others. 4a. Dan Larimer, the CTO of Block 1, recently said EOS's delegated proof of stake is more scalable and compatible with future technologies. No matter how many gimmicks proof-of-stake distributed ledgers such as EOS invent, they are just that, distributed ledgers. Those are not blockchains. They just make blocks to mimic the authority and perceived security of Bitcoin and Ethereum Classic. but they are not better than normal Byzantine fault-tolerant and subjectiveness-dependent networks. Their security is up to 1/3 fault tolerance and nothing more. I would say that the fact they designate stakers, or even worse, a few privileged nodes to be master nodes, reduces security further, because the consensus has to be reached only between that subset of a few players, and the rest of the nodes become just followers of their decisions instead of true validators. For a system as centralized and subjectively directed as EOS, to say that it is scalable and compatible with future technologies is not only a truism, but a stupid truism. This is because it is actually a very inefficient, centralized, and cumbersome distributed ledger, when AWS, Microsoft Azure, IBM Cloud, Google Cloud are equally centralized, but less bureaucratic and much more efficient and secure by trusted third-party standards. From a business strategy perspective, EOS is stuck in the middle. This means it is not trust minimized as Bitcoin and ETC, but is not as efficient as AWS or Azure and the other cloud services. Therefore, EOS is a dead end for all intents and purposes. 4b. He also said proof of work is not compatible because we cannot create a new chain with the same network effect as BTC and ETH, among others. Thoughts? That is a false argument that assumes that high computing power is the only security feature of blockchains that use proof of work. It also shows why Larimer would use proof of stake and copy features of democracy such as delegated proof of stake and voting, because he ignores the security model of proof of work chains and thus ignores that EOS is a significantly inferior system in terms of security and not competitive even in the performance segment, as I mentioned above. To illustrate, proof of work blockchains security features include, but are not limited to, consensus and transaction ordering with 50% fault tolerance, which is not achievable by proof of stake. Sybil resistance is much stronger in proof of work with most accumulated work fork choice than the subjective model of proof of stake. Accumulated work means that the work done by the miner since Genesis is accumulated, making it practically impossible to reverse the chain even with all the hash power in the network. In proof of stake, 33% plus of stakers can reverse to Genesis in seconds. Unforgeable costliness means the coin is extremely costly to create, thus very difficult to forge. Also, that cost sets a proxy for its value in the economy. In proof of stake, to create the coins has no cost. The above unforgeable costliness also creates a fallback in case the fee model doesn't work, which is unlikely, or the social layer goes rogue with monetary policy. Broadcast and replication among all full nodes who are true validators. Broadcast and replication among full nodes who are true validators, not like proof of stake, where the only validators are stakers or masternodes in EOS. Minor client division of power, related to the previous point, also means that proof of work miners only build blocks, but those blocks are worthless if not validated by full nodes. This divides the power in the chain and renders no particular participant all powerful, even with 50% plus computing power. In proof of stake, such division of power does not exist, rendering 33% plus of stakers, note, this is a subset of the subset, as the only group that controls everything in the distributed ledger. All of the above means that whether there are several proof of work chains and some are larger than others, or if they even share the same mining algo, does not mean they are less secure. It only means that the smaller chain users have to use more confirmations for larger transactions, as they may be vulnerable to double spends, which is in itself a local, non-systemic attack vector in proof of work, public blockchains. In fact, ETC is proof of this. 5. What do you think the crypto landscape will look like next year? and maybe 2 years from now? And what role will ETC play in that? It is important for me to know It is important for me to know what will happen. Excuse me. It is impossible for me to know what will happen in the next year or two. But what I expressed above indicates that the whole industry will eventually reorganize itself in layers. Layer 1 being the most secure, low performance, high value layer. Layer 2 being the high performance, high volume, and lower transaction value layer. And other systems on top that may constitute the applications layer, such as Lightning Network, Plasma, Raiden, Liquid, other sidechains, and others. If Ethereum, EOS, Cardano, Tezos, and other POS networks actually acknowledge their true nature, they would stop trying to compete at the base layer and assume their position as layer 2 systems that would use the security services of the base layer as I described in the first question. Thank you very much.